Bremerton. So delighted and actually thrilled to be with you this morning. I always am happy to be here. We're going to start off with a song by John Mayer, Gravity. Gravity is working against me, and gravity wants to bring me down. Oh, twice as much and twice as good, and it can't sustain like a one-half could. This wanting more is gonna bring me to my knees. Oh, gravity, stop taking away from me. Gravity is taking better women than me. Oh, how can it be? Twice as much and twice as good, and it can't sustain like a one-half could. This wanting more is gonna send me to my knees. Is taking better women than me. Oh, how can it be? Just keep me where the love is. Keep me where the love is. Yeah, gravity, stay away from me. Gravity wants to bring me down. Oh, twice as much and twice as good, and it can't sustain like a one-half could. This wanting more is gonna send me to my knees. Oh, gravity, stay away from me. Gravity Stay away from me. Oh, twice as much ain't twice as good, and it won't sustain like a one half could. This long-sleeve road is gonna take me to my knees. Oh, keep me where the love is. Keep me where the love is. Keep me where the love is. Keep me where God's love is. Oh, keep me where the love is. 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 Thank you so much. We're going to sing The Glory of Love. If you know that, you can pat your foot. You got to give a little, yeah. Take a little, and let your poor heart break a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. Yeah, it sounds wonderful. You got to laugh a little, cry a little, before the clouds roll by a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. As long as there is all of us, we've got the world in this charm, in the world. And when the world is through with us, we'll have enough faith to go on. Yeah. You got to win a little, lose a little, and always pray away to lose a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. Sing the chorus one more time. As long as there is all of us, we've got the world in its charms. And when the world is through with us, we'll have enough faith to go on. You got to win a little, lose a little, and always pray no way to lose a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. That's the story of, that's the glory of love.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, welcome. As you can see, our lovely guest today is Mercedes Nicole, and the name of your accompanist is?
Craig Hoyer.
Craig Hoyer. Welcome, Craig. Mercedes has been with us several times before. We always enjoy her wonderful presence, and we're going to be having a concert event after this afternoon at 1 p.m. and I'm looking forward to it. I was looking through my CDs last night. I have 3 of your CDs, so I'm stoked. That's an old phrase, but it applies. I'm stoked. Okay, I'm planning to go. So, just a word before we go onward. We have a bunch of people that make Sundays happen. We want you to be aware of it because it involves a bit of work. And they could use a little help, as a matter of fact. So if people want to sign up to be volunteers for setup, and then afterwards, after the service and events that happen here on Sundays, the kind of cleaning up and putting things away that happens, we do need volunteers. But I do want to recognize that our chaplain of the day is Candace, and our hospitality hosts are Mary Ellen and Laura. The spick and span angels are all of us. So after we have fellowship time, if you could help clear away the crumbs, that would be helpful. And after our concert, we'll have a chance to put away the chairs, and they need help with that as well. I also want to mention that our board is hard at work at a number of things. Our technology guru is Mark Swink. Thank you, Mark, for all you do. He's responsible both for the things that appear on the screen here and the live streaming that happens. So that's wonderful to know about. And by the way, I'm your lovely platform attendant, Debbie Clay. But I wanted to say welcome, welcome, and we're so glad everybody is here. Is there anybody with us for the first time today? We're all returnees. Okay, so we'll talk about the Red Heart in a minute, but I think that it's time for another song.
You don't know this one. It's such a comforting song. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Just gonna play a little bit. Think about the meaning of those words. One more time. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
So when we talk about the Red Heart Welcome, we talk about this little red heart that we give people when they're new to the service, new to our gathering, that is, here at Unity of Bremerton. Hopefully all of you have yours either in your pocket or at home in a special place. But what it's all about is we welcome people in the spirit of love. We want you to know that no matter where you are on your journey of faith, you're always welcome here. We know that the world is a better place when we are willing to share our hearts. We give you the heart as a symbol of the steadfast spirit that lives within each one of us, and ask you to carry this as a symbol of the membership of this Red Heart Fellowship. Let it be a reminder that the love of God is always with you, and to share your heart wherever you go. The red heart, as a symbol of fellowship in the world, can spread love one heart at a time. Let's start the movement here. That's what it's all about. Okay. Unity happenings. I do want to mention that our service today is going to be a broadcast of Unity of Hawaii. The topic is water, the power of love and influence, and the minister that will be speaking is Reverend Darlene Strickland. And so she'll be talking about water as it's a representation of the power of love. But first, a few announcements. As I mentioned a moment ago, at 1 p.m., excuse me, Mercedes Nicole is going to be having her afternoon of gospel, jazz, and blues, and she's going to have some musicians accompany her, right? Yes, it's going to be a wonderful event, so I urge you to attend. Okay, there's a recommended or suggested love offering of $16, but nobody will be turned away. And I understand that you're saving up. You're going to Unity of Paris in 2020? Oh, wonderful. What a marvelous event. Okay, let's help her get there. All right, what else do we want to talk about? There's more announcements in your bulletin. I think you can read them for yourself. But I'm sure that the board member of the week has some announcements to say. No? Nope. Okay, our board president says no further announcements. So just a reminder, on Thursday evenings we have our Course in Miracles study group at 7 p.m. and all are welcome to attend. So we want you to know about that. Okay, I'm going to light the Christ candle now. And of course the Christ candle represents the divine light within each one of us. Okay, our mission statement is on the screen. Can we say this together? We are a welcoming community supporting our mutual quest for spiritual truth. And our invocation together? There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good omnipotence. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to have a brief time of handshakes and hugs. Remember that after the service we're going to have fellowship time, so more opportunity for longer conversations at that time, but we can briefly say hello and welcome each other today.
Hey, you. Good morning. How are you? Pretty good. Good morning, Marilyn. Hey. One of those players for real. Thank you. You are? Oh, it's so lovely. Yes. Is this what you
Ready? You can tell. Everything that I need to know about what lies before me. Everything that I need to know about what lies before me is available to me. Is available to me through the mind of God within me. Everything that I need to release about what lies before me. Everything that I need to release about what lies before me is available to me. Is available to me through the mind of God within me. Everything that I need to heal about what lies before me. Everything that I need to heal about me is available to me through the mind of God within me. That's when everything that I need to reveal about what lies before me, everything that I need to reveal about what lies before me is available to me. I'm sorry, one more after that. Available to me through the mind of God within me to love everything that I need to love about what lies before me, everything that I need to love about what lies before me is available to me. It's available to me through the mind of God within me. Through the mind of God within me. Very good, thank you.
Today's daily word is guidance. I have faith that I am divinely guided. Today I consider the path that has brought me to this moment. Looking back at past situations, I now see that seemingly insurmountable obstacles held rich new opportunities to allow my Christ self to guide my every choice. Divine guidance is never withheld and is more rewarding than any scenarios my mortal mind may envision. Just as I encourage others to actively seek enlightenment from their inner source, I remind myself to do the same. Spiritual guidance is readily available to me and to all creation through a divine connection. Through Spirit within, my perspective changes and possibilities become realities. I have faith that I am divinely guided. From Psalms 32, verse 8, I will instruct you and teach you the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Today I have faith that I am divinely guided. God bless us.
It's always the right thing. Always.
She's absolutely right. It's always the right perfect thing, isn't it? And we each need to hear. I remember being a little girl and my auntie used to get the little booklets and reading the daily word. And it's something that once you start doing, you do for life because it's so soothing and it does guide you, doesn't it? So when my son was little, he watched VeggieTales, and one of the popular signs, and my favorite sign, is called I Am a Promise, and we all are a promise. So we're going to sing that together because we are a what? A promise and a possibility. That's right. every time. Oh my goodness. So I wrote this song in 2015, and it just really touches my heart. I hope it touches yours this morning. It's called Touching the Sky. God is your friend. He'll open new chapters in your life, and He'll hold your hand. Because He loves you so much, don't be afraid. Let go of the pain inside, because with Spirit you'll be touching the sky. At night when the sunsets come, whenever dark memories crowd your mind, just think of God's warm, sweet love, and your heart will soar like waves from an ocean shore, or the sound of a crackling fire. 'Cause with God's Spirit you'll be touching the sky. God's love can turn sorrow into play. God's strength, God's joy, God's love, and God's love can turn darkness into day. Stay here inside God's love. God is your friend. You open the chapters in your life, and He'll hold your hand. Because He loves you so much, don't be afraid. Let go of the pain inside, 'cause with His Spirit you'll be touching. When you trust Him, you'll be touching. When you love Him, you'll be touching the sky. open new chapters in your life, and He'll hold your hand. Because He loves you so much, don't be afraid. Let go of the pain inside. 'Cause if you trust Him, you'll be touching. If you love Him, you'll be touching. If you follow Him, you'll be touching the sky. Suddenly, 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 suddenly. Suddenly, 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 suddenly. Just believe in love, and you will be okay. Suddenly, 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 suddenly. Touching the sky. Thank you.
Who is an agent of change and transformation. It's a delight that Reverend Darlene Strickland is back here in our community. When I was here previously as an intern, which started about 4 years ago, Darlene came and was a teacher and guest speaker during that time that I was here. We were all blessed by her presence then. She was at that time, had been the minister at Maui, Unity of Maui. Currently, she is in the process of revitalizing and enlivening the congregation of Unity of South Sound, which was my former home territory in the Puget Sound area of Washington. She brings with her this morning a message of transformation and the love we all carry in our hearts. Will you welcome with me Reverend Darlene Strickland?
Thank you so much. It's good to be here today. You know, this fabulous music team set the tone perfectly when they said, "Love is flowing like a river." Did anybody besides me feel like you were in a canoe just meandering in some nice flowing water? Well, today is week 3 of a 4-part series based on the 4 elements of God revealed in you. We started with air, which is the power of life, and it represents the soul quality of inspiration. Last week we talked about fire, which is the power of light, and it represents the soul qualities of illumination and transformation. And today we talk about that wonderful flowing element of water. Water represents the power of love and the soul quality of influence. How many of you have had some water to drink already this morning? Yeah. We drink water, we bathe in water, we swim in water, especially here. We harness the energy of water and put it to use. We are dependent upon rainwaters. And as a matter of fact, we are primarily made up of water. Did you know that a newborn baby is actually over 80% water? And the average adult is still 60 to 70% water. So if you're full of anything, you are full of water. Water and life are truly inseparable. Wherever there is life, there must be water on earth. And interestingly enough, wherever on earth there is water, there is life. They truly are inseparable. As with the other elements, the quality of water is also very sacred and found throughout all various scriptures. Baptisms, christenings, being sprinkled with holy water. Rivers and great places and have been considered places that people would go and be healed. Today, many people actually still go and pray in waters around the world. Our relationship with water is truly a relationship with the flow of life. And so water as such, water as the flow of life, an energy in motion, the emoting of the spirit of life, water represents the power of love. Because love is the spirit in which we live and move and have our being. You know, there are some interesting qualities about water, and when you consider how water really is like love. Like water, love is the building block of life. Like water, love smooths out jagged edges. Like water, love can move around any obstacle, always takes the path of least resistance, changes its form and how it shows up depending on the environment, serves to cleanse and purify, heals, restores, and sustains life. It is formless, and yet it fills whatever form it is given. It flows freely from the heavens, and it reflects our essence, our true nature, which is the image and likeness of God. Water, interestingly enough, is considered the original mirror. You can look in a pool of still water and see your reflection. Water by the ancients was considered that sacred element that reflected back the Creator to all that was created to the Creator. And I thought it was beautiful in Jamie's song. He sang a line that said, "I look to you to witness my perfection." We look to the source to witness our reflection and our perfection, and we are reflecting that back. There's a powerful scripture in Proverbs that says, "As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart." And as such, water and the power of love, that which flows in us, that spirit which enlivens us, and ideally is the same spirit that we emote and flows through us, represents the soul quality of influence. Because we can be under the influence of love, or we can be under the influence of something else, like fear. Of course, in Miracles talks about love and fear as the two primary operating energies that we exist within. And that at all times we are either operating under the influence of love and being a spark of love, or we are perhaps crying for love. You know, a very wise young woman told me one time, there are no bad people, just people in bad places. And when we find ourselves in those hard places, it simply means we may have somehow or another sidestepped and are no longer under the influence of that love. There's three very powerful things that love and influence ask us to consider. Number one, what have you established as the essential building block of your life? What serves to replenish you? And what is your life reflecting? We are all under the influence of many things throughout our life. Ram Dass, the great teacher who lives on Maui now, talks about that when we're first born, we immediately begin our somebody training. You're born this little innocent somebody, and all the world begins to tell you who you are, who you should be, who you should not be, what you should do, what you should not do, how you should show up, how you should not show up. Did anybody have a good indoctrination of somebody training? Did anybody find a good therapist, a 12-step program, or a Unity Church to help undo that somebody training? Life is about undoing that somebody training to have our reflection be the reflection of our true nature. Well, many things influence and impact us throughout our life. Albert Einstein was a very influential person. He is still a very influential person, and in his time, he was incredibly influential. There's a story that one night he was driving with his chauffeur, going to give a speech, a lecture which he had given hundreds of times. And that night Einstein was a bit under the weather, and he said out loud, he said, you know, I'd just rather be home. I don't want to do this right now. His chauffeur, who really admired him and had gone and heard his lectures time after time after time, said, hey, my hair kind of looks like yours. If we exchange hats and jackets, I bet you I can give your talk tonight. And Einstein said, fine, give it a shot. So sure enough, they exchanged hats and jackets, and the chauffeur stood up there, and he gave a perfect lecture. He gave the same lecture that Einstein always did. He had heard and been influenced so many times he could deliver the same lecture. But then people began to ask questions. Hands went up. It didn't shake him. He started taking the questions and answering the questions, and he did a pretty good job. Until one man who really wanted people to know how intelligent he was asked this very long, elaborate question about antimatter, and it was so confusing. The chauffeur looked at him and said, sir, that does sound like a very complicated question, but I'd like to show you exactly how simple it is. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn to my chauffeur and ask him to address this question. You see, he had been so influenced by this man, it gave him the courage. How we show up and what we believe we can do depends on how we've been influenced. It also helps us determine where are we going to turn. When life questions us, where do we turn for the answers? Where do we look for our influence? The co-founders of Unity, Charles and Fertile, they have 3 children. Oh Lord, okay. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. Okay, where was I going with that? Anyway, Myrtle had an amazing healing. Charles Fillmore knew that his wife had been healed. She had been suffering with tuberculosis. They had 3 young children, as I just said, and she was at the end stages of her life. Well, when Myrtle grasped a hold of the truth that she was a child of God, she was under the influence of the God of her being and not just the genes in her body, she experienced a healing. Her husband, Charles, saw that, and he knew that she had a hold of something that had dramatically changed her life, and he wanted to discover that as well. Yet he was a very philosophical person, and he approached it a different way, so he set out to read every book, study every religion, every faith tradition that he could, until he got thoroughly confused. Anybody else? And his famous line, when he got so confused after looking here and looking there, he said, in this Babel, I will go directly to headquarters. If I am spirit, and this God they talk about so much is spirit, then we can somehow communicate, or the whole thing is a fraud. He set aside an hour each evening to be still and commune with God. Well, when he did that, he made conscious contact with that higher power that we know, the Spirit of God that lives and dwells within each and every one of us. And he began to realize that rather than being under the influence of all the things that life told him, he could rise and be above that influence and be under the influence of a higher power and a higher presence, that presence of God, that presence of love. You see, that's what Jesus, the master teacher, talked about when he said, in this world there are trials and there are tribulations, but be of good cheer, I have overcome, and you can too. What he was saying is, I have overcome the influence of the world. I am under the influence of a greater power and a greater presence. He taught this. There's a wonderful story in the Gospel of Luke about 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. I happen to love these 2 sisters, especially Martha, because I identify with her. Martha was a real spiritual seeker. She wanted to experience this God presence that she knew was her true nature and her true identity. And so as the story goes, she invited Jesus when he was traveling through to come into her home. And in Luke, it says, Jesus and his disciples were on their way, and he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary. Mary sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Martha came to Jesus and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Now she went from a spirit of hospitality to a spirit of demanding. "Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," Jesus answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but indeed only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her." And then the story ends. Well, if you're like me, and if you're sort of like Martha, wondering, you say, "I'm really happy for Mary that she received what cannot be taken from her, but what about me? How do I get beyond this predicament?" Well, in Unity, we realize that the Bible is really a metaphysical story of our unfoldment, of our awakening to who we are. And these characters represent aspects of us. Martha represents that part of all of us that is the busy bee, that is always out, that is under the influence of the cares of life. And that gets carried away by these things. And rather than being present to the presence, we're under the influence of the cares of life. Mary, on the other hand, it's no coincidence that the name of Jesus' mother was Mary. Mary represents that part of us that knows how to make room for our Christ presence, the Atman, our true nature. Mary represents that part of us that is always present to the presence. What this teaching is showing is that when we show up and allow ourselves to be under the influence by a higher power and a presence, nothing or no one can ever take that away from us. And our goal is in the midst of the cares of our life. We will always have cares of life. But in the midst, how do we create that time to be present? Well, we offer this affirmation and that we can use in our times of prayer and meditation that says, "I am under the influence of God's ever-present love." Together. I am under the influence of God's ever-present love. But just as we are always under the influence of many ideas, many things that bombard us throughout the day, and hopefully we are rising above the influence of the mundane things of life and placing ourselves in the stream of life, in the flow of living waters, to be under the influence of love. Because we are also an agent, a presence of influence. Every single one of you carries out a calling of influence. No matter how great, how small, how young, how old, we all live within a calling of influence. You know, it's a curious thing. We cannot escape it. The very controversial basketball player, Dennis Rodman, has said many times, "I do not want to be a role model. I just want to be myself." Well, the problem is you cannot escape that you are always influencing other people. I love what Eleanor Roosevelt said when she talked about the power of our influence. She said, "The influence you exert is through your own life and what you have become yourself." You see, our influence is an expression of the Spirit that is flowing through us. As within, so without. That which flows in, flows out, in and through and as us. That's why the master teacher Jesus and Buddha and many others, but Jesus in particular, it says 14 times in the Gospels alone that he was moved by compassion. What this means is that when someone came into his presence and they had a need, he stopped and he looked at them. He focused on them, and he simply became that fountain for the living waters to flow through him. As he was moved by compassion, that compassion moved out through him and touched that other person. That's what we're calling. That is the calling on our life, to be that. Well, many of us oftentimes, I think, get stuck because we say, "Yeah, but I'm not Jesus or Buddha or Mother Teresa. That's all well and good, but that is not me." And if we struggle and wonder, how do I have this calling of influence? Well, it happens every day in many ways. I'll give you an example. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, our church, the church that I grew up with, and my family was very involved, we were having our annual rummage sale. And so we were all gathered early Saturday morning. organizing things, putting things out because this big rummage sale was getting ready to begin. And I was helping my mom, I was putting things out, and this woman in the church, I'll never forget her name was Jackie. Jackie came over to me and she said, "Darlene, you have a gift for organizing." She said, "Not everyone can do that. You have a gift for organizing, and thank you for sharing that today." I looked up and I thought, I have a gift. I have a gift for organizing. Who knew? I didn't know I had a gift for organizing, but I have a gift for organizing. So what do you think I did as a little 7 or 8-year-old kid that day? I went around and organized stuff all day long. When I got home, I walked in my room and I'm like, oh my God, this is a mess, and I have a gift for organizing. So I straightened up my room. My mother was dumbfounded. She's like, I don't know what happened, but you keep on, honey, that's good. To this day, I do have a gift for organizing. But someone influenced me because they recognized it and they called it out. You see, that is how simple and how profound it is. When we take that moment, that's what Jesus did when he turned to a person and he focused and he allowed the love to flow through them. He said, I recognize that quality of love in you. I recognize this gift, this potential, this talent. I recognize your smile. I recognize that you're trying to be optimistic in despite of all that's going on. That is allowing ourselves to be a presence of love, a presence of this influence. There's a wonderful illustration of this that I'd like to share with you. A young 13-year-old girl, her name is Natalie. Natalie had a gift for singing. She wanted to share her gift. She had a love to sing. She wanted to be a singer on Broadway, and at 13 years old, she was so excited because her name was selected and she was going to get to sing the national anthem at a playoff game in Portland, Oregon with the Portland Trailblazers. So a crowd of 20,000 people, this 13-year-old had the honor of singing the national anthem. Unfortunately, she woke up that morning and had the flu. Well, she said, I love to sing, Mom. I want to do this. And her mom said, okay. So they took her. She went into her dressing room, got ready. She rehearsed it 5 times. They said, perfectly. And then she got up, and under the pressure and not feeling well, when it came her time to sing, she fell apart. But what happened, the head coach of the Trailblazers, a man who was totally focused on needing to win this game, was moved in a moment of compassion. And I'd like to show you what happened with a crowd of 20,000 people.
And now to honor America and salute the men and women serving our country with our national anthem. Please welcome, as voted by you, the fans, our winner of the Toyota Get the Feeling of a Star promotion, Natalie Gilbert.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the stars at
Oh, no.
stars like last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets raglan and the singing there. Yeah, it proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That is probably one of the worst sung versions of that song ever. And yet, it is the most beautiful, because what showed up? Love. You see, a young girl's love for sharing her passion, and a coach's love who had 2 young daughters, for recognizing I can do something right here. We're all meant to show up as that love. You see, just as we are under the influence of God's ever-present love, our second affirmation is very powerful, and it says, I am the influence of God's ever-present love. Would you affirm that with me together? I am the influence of God's ever-present love. And to anchor that in, we're going to use a mantra of song that says, love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. The presence of God is flowing through me, and love is leading me on. It goes like this. Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. The presence of God is flowing through me, and love is leading me on. Sing it with me. Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. The presence of God is flowing through me, and love is leading me on. One more time. Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. The presence of God is flowing through me, and love is leading me on. So I invite you to close your eyes and to take that deep breath of inspiration. You call upon the powers within you that are powers to illuminate your life and transform. And to now make yourself present and available to be under the influence of the truth of your being. To be under the influence of your true nature. To be under the influence of the power and the possibility that is yours as a divine created being. To rise above any other influence. And we simply do that by clearing our mind and letting go. And focusing on this truth, that in God we live and move and have our being. And this God is known as love. And it is my source, it is my true nature. And so I make room of my own volition to be under the influence of this power and this presence of my true nature, so that I can be a presence of influence in my world. I am the influence of God's ever-present love. Hold that for a moment in the silence.
Wasn't that marvelous? Idea that we were going to get, a double whammy. Not only a great message, but she can sing too. Wonderful. Well, we're going to have a time of I'm sorry? We're going to have a time of offering. So I invite you to take. Yes, I know. We're going to have an offering soon. So I invite you to take your love offering in your hand. And when you offer your love offering, be sure and send your blessings out to this church and this congregation as we move forward. Thank you.
totally agree with you. And thank you, Marilyn, for the daily word. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. Then I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so blessed. Okay, together as a congregation, we're going to bless the love offering, so the blessing is on the screen. Together, I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude. Thank you, God. Good news. Okay, does anybody have any good news to share? Yes, Jamie.
I would just like to say that we're doing our birthday party, doing it on March 10th instead of further. All the same details, same place,
Same people.
same people, same
Is that on a
time.
weekend?
Same. That's a
So,
Sunday.
is
that a Sunday?
If you have any questions, it's the same thing. Sunday at
At 3:30?
Yep,
Okay.
everything's the same. And if you have any questions, it's the apartment buildings behind Target.
Okay.
Up on the hill.
So Jamie and his wife Barbara are jointly celebrating their birthday, and this is an event that was scheduled earlier this month, but due to the snow, it had to be postponed. So they're rescheduling the event. Any questions? You can see Jamie for the details.
Yes.
Wonderful. Anybody else have any good news to share?
Not necessarily good news, but we want to reach out. Candace, our dear Candace, has taken another fall. So she needs some prayer support. So while you're being thankful and thinking, let's visualize her and surrounded by healing and the love and light that we can send and ask that happen, because otherwise she would happily be here. And she's very disappointed that she's going to miss the concert, but I told her that we would reach out and we'd all be sending her our prayers and support.
Tracy says hi.
Tracy says hi. Jordan Lois, Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
So yeah, hold all of our peoples in that higher power, that higher light.
Yes, let's hold all of our congregation in loving light and prayer and support. Wonderful. Okay. And just a reminder, at 1 p.m. this afternoon, Mercedes Nicole and her wonderful musicians will be having a concert, and we surely hope that you will attend. Okay. I think we're ready to sing the peace song. So let's sing the peace song and our closing prayer song. Closing prayer. With God as creator, can we all
The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's